iRacing.
For a country that's come to be known for its brutal honesty, Zandvoort is definitely a track to match the Netherlands. It suffers no fools and plays no favorites. Let's see who can appeal to its technical nature as we get ready for round 9 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Craig King. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Craig, there's few road courses like the current iteration of Zandvoort, that's for sure.
An old track that got resurrected, and mainly with the new introduction of a lot of banked curves. The Americans, I think, Joe, will feel a little bit at home with a couple of these corners today.
I agree. It'll definitely suit some of them that are used to the oval side, but after that recent update, Zandvoort has a new look, so let's see more about it with our track guide. Welcome to Circuit Park Zandvoort. This legendary track directly to the west of Amsterdam and a stone's throw away from the shore of the North Sea has seen more than half a century of racing history. After a brief period of being closed, it was rebuilt in the 90s and then given a huge facelift in 2019 to see the return of Formula One. It retained its 4.25 kilometer length and 14 turns for the Grand Prix course, while the other 3 versions also stayed mostly unchanged. But the biggest adaptations were the additions of steep banking in Hugenholtz and Leyendyk. The unusual progressive banking in Hugenholtz in particular stands out as it brings the oval racing staple to the twisty side of motorsports and has produced action-packed results. Meanwhile, Leyendyk's new camber means that this corner is now easily flat out in pretty much every car and gives even better chances to try and overtake into the famous Tarzan. That said, passing is notoriously difficult at this highly technical track. And while it's much slower than its original guys, it still has some frighteningly fast corners, including Givlock. If you're brave, the Hans Ernst chicane can sometimes offer chances to sneak by someone, but it can often become a clumsy wreck if you're not careful. The amounts of cash poured into the upgrades certainly produce more than just a fresh coat of paint. The spectacular racing put on by everything from open-wheelers to touring cars and sports cars is almost never dull. It's no wonder the Dutch fans come out in droves when the green flag waves here. Well, as we said, this place definitely stands out amongst modern racetracks, but it's also very tight and twisty.
Yeah, a little bit twisty, and some of the old aspects of the track have remained the same. So that's still run down to Husserang into Slotermaker at 4, 5, and 6, still there. But the real fun parts of the track does come to turn 3, the Hugenholtz, and then, of course, in to 7, 8, and 9. Just a really nice flowing section, which really will test the ability of which drivers will try and keep the speed on these cars, because there is a little bit of a downhill effort there as well for the drivers before they then make their way to Hans Ernst at that chicane at 11 and 12, and that gives them up to that big run to the now oval banking like corner Ari Leyendijk at 14. So while it is tight for overtaking here, these are the type of cars that would have made Zandvoort back in the day, Joe, and realistically with just 3 corners making different gradients nowadays, it kind of feels like we are back to the old days.
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit more willingness to put some camber in the corners back during the era of the Lotus 79. But regardless, the drivers, I think, will suit to this and enjoy it as they have raced here before. As far as the racing goes, I think Andy T is very, very close to locking up the championship. Look at the points difference. The drop weeks are what really helps out in this sense. He has not had any races finishing lower than second, except for a DNF at Road America. He's been shockingly consistent. So despite the speed of drivers like Cortinemi and Reed in second and third, they are still too far back, and it's looking likely Andy has a good chance to try and wrap it up. From there, Spigot Valenteus in a little bit of a battle for fourth position, could catch up to Jacob Reed as well. Toko Hisada sitting in sixth. There is some incredible names up at the top here this season that have been competing and are at least up in the front, if not in the running. Behind that, it is Martinez, Blair, Freckleton, and Freesia with a tie for 9th and 10th to round out your top 10, at least in the F1 standings. We also have an F2 championship, Craig.
Yeah, and the F2 is very interesting because 2 ninth places overall. Remember, the championship points are decided by your fastest average lap. So even though he won second split for the last 2 weeks in a row, Luke Tenusin has now shot up to the top of the F2 championship after 2 81-point rounds, getting ahead of Brandon White. And then, of course, Antonio Alvarez is so close, as is Craig Sandin. The rest of the podium looks very close. And then behind them, Michael Taylor just ahead of Jesse Brannon and Ben Summers. Remy Villeneuve will be 8th with Barry West in 9th. Byron Long 10th. The interesting thing here, Joe, is some of these F2 drivers are in the top split today, which is going to make it very tricky to get some big points out there.
For sure. And we also have a teams championship that they run in this series. And it is still Williams that are up at the top, as they have been for a couple rounds now. Ligier sitting second behind them by 82 points, which is a pretty big gap, at least in the team standings, because they do score this differently than how they do the drivers championship here. JIB behind by 101 points, but still within about 20 of Ligier for that second spot. Warsteiner Arrows sitting in fourth, not very far behind from P3. From there, it's a bit of a jump to TVR in fifth, with Totoro sitting in sixth, a long ways back. Brazilian Speed Star, the Team Lotus, School Nation, and Tissot Ensign round out your 10 championship teams at the top of the points standings. So let's take a look at the race details before we get over to qualifying, Craig.
Yeah, round 9 today of 12. So we're getting to the business then. Drop weeks now into effect. 28 laps out here today on what is a 80 second lap time. And it's an open setup. Use the iRacing setup or use the setup you've made or something the community has brewed up together. But you crash, your day is done. There is no spare car. But a drive-through at 17 incident points. Disqualification at 25. I always like to say, do we flirt, Joe? I think we'll be flirting with the 17. But the moment you go wide here, there's not a lot of runoff. You probably go wide and you're probably out of the race in the barriers.
Indeed, there is close things to hit, I guess that is the way to put it, all around this track. There's not many places where you have a lot of room to kind of skitter off. This is definitely one of them coming down through Kumho, but then it is the wall right to the outside, oval style, around Lyondike. Gernot Freesia on his second lap around. Does he improve? Yes, he does, but only by 1/10 of a second. So he stays, well, he jumps up a couple there into sixth position. Andy T is our provisional pole sitter over Topi Cortinemi, whose second lap put him within 1/10 of a second, but it was not enough to take the pole away, as Thomas actually is going to park it that time by. Watch out for Audrius Valenteus, because he has not set a lap yet. This is Ross Banfield, though, who is currently on his second time around.
And he'll come through the hands of chicane coming on by now into Kumho. You want to get yourself a nice setup here to just really get on the power right now for Arie Luyendyk, named, of course, after the famous Dutch IndyCar driver who'll come over the crest of the hill and looking to see if Ross can improve. The American would love to get up the field, but a P7 at the moment, and he does with a fantastic time to take himself into third position. Here comes the gold standard, not in gold, but he's in a time that's only good for ninth. The man who dominates 49s and into vintage, still not getting the hang of this car after his first full season, Joe.
Yeah, he got beat by Dylan Freckleton on his second lap, who jumps up to 8th. Jack David Spickett also finally set his first lap, and that slots him into 12th currently. I think Alec Cunningham, the only driver out on track that has not set a time that we're waiting on. Otherwise, Thomas Tuba will be the lone driver that will not have a lap time to his name. Valenteus now into the newer portion, newer-ish. It's been around since the late 90s, I believe, here at Zandvoort. And it's kind of an infield section with a lot of slow hairpin turns before it opens up on your way down into the Hans Ernst chicane, which can sometimes tantalize you into trying to pass, but it is a dangerous move to be made, Craig.
Very dangerous. You want to make sure you don't do it, but he needs to find a time. 7/10 behind Andy T, but look how close it is between 5th all the way down to 9th. If he finds a 10th, he jumps up to where Jack Davis Pickett is, who is also just a 10th ahead. So Valenteus could really find some time here. Could go up 6 places if he wanted to. It's a 20.776. And he does exactly what I said. 007 behind Numella in 4th. Aaron Blair will come across the line just at the end.
Valenteus, P5. That is a lot more representative. We'll see if he can make good on that in the race itself, though, as the qualifying has now wrapped. Everybody has taken a lap besides Thomas Tuba, and the grid is set. Andy T on the pole position, 45 thousandths ahead of Topi Cortinimi. Ross Banfield was third in qualifying with Marco Numella. A great lap for him there in row 2. It was Adrius Valenteus in 5th, followed by Jack David Spickett in P6, Gabri Martinez in 7th. Toga Asada will start P8, while Gernot Friesche only 9th today, and Dylan Freckleton within the top 10.
4.1k strength for field today, which means Kartik Pai will be 11th with Zach Leonhardi in 12th. Julius Muller will be unlucky 13th, and Nick Visson goes into 14th. Maria will be in 15th, and Luke Tenusen in the top split 16th today with Daniel Banker 17th. Aaron Blair only 18th after that lap. Andrew Petty will be 19th. Timothy Reed rounds out the top 20.
Nicky Friesen is going to start 21st with Peter Konieczny in 22nd. Ika Kotasalo will be in 23rd. It'll be Carlos Peralta in 24th position, followed by Krakowiak in the quarter century mark. He's flanked by Remy Villeneuve. Matt Cockrum will start 27th. Peter Jurka in the 28th spot, and then Taylor Ballant 29th. David Montuano in the 30th position. Just a few more here, so I'll wrap these up as Alec Cunningham starts 31st, Antonio Alvarez 32nd, and Michael Taylor in 33rd. Then it's Ben Summers 34th and Beatrice Yank in the 35th and final qualifying spot, while Thomas Tuba gets put in the back at 36. We just about have everybody already lined up and ready to go for this one, so we should get that green flag shortly. Will this be a championship run for Andy T? Second or better will clinch for him, and he's already done that 6 times this season, so the chances are good that he can repeat, especially from the pole. They're taking a while for Nick Disson and Peralta to find themselves on the grid. I don't anticipate them starting from pit lane since they are in the mid-pack, and I don't think they'd want to start from the very back on this one. It looks like they have now put themselves out there with the rest of the field, so you can hear those engines revving here along the Dutch coastline as the lights come up, and there is the green flag. Cortinimi is off pretty well, but T is off better, and he starts to streak away. Look, way down to the inside, somewhere around 6th or 7th position. Thankfully, we're going to be able to make it through that first corner, but down to the inside, a big moment for Jack David Spickett, and the car was all over the place.
Now he's just got to get himself going at the moment. More drivers now coming in there, and it looks like he just got a little bit of a tap from Gabriel Martinez on the cold tires. More carnage as everyone's just start bunching up. I see a lightning purple car. That always means it's Dylan Freckleton. He's had a little bit of an issue out there. A little bit of a slide, got caught up by somebody, didn't see who it was caught up by, and just going to have to carry a little bit of damage there. The front of the field, though, after that very quick run down to turn 1, have kept it clean for the moment. Valentea's already up 1, Jack down 6, Montahano up 9 in the backfield.
This is a lot of cars for this tiny little track, and you can see what it has done for the racing with everybody so eager to try and find position early. It's tough to try and overtake around here. Timothy Reed, as someone in the background goes completely around in there. Ligier causes an accident. I saw somebody clip them right at the end. That may have been Krakowiak. In the meantime, Peralta in the thick of it. Behind them, all the way down to 26, Dylan Freckleton lost 16 spots on this first lap.
Yeah, and even still, Mahano, we were just talking about him, now up to 10. Here's Mickey Friesen in the Nissan GTP-inspired livery. Gets a really nice run here, but he's going to have to work together here with somebody as they start trying to split open. Car at the very front here is Timothy Reed, and he just has to decide, defend or give someone a tow. They're going to go 2 by 2 in to Tarzan, but remember, the outside is a little bit tougher because of the camber there at turn 1. It's worked for Timothy, but now the outside for Hugenholz is the better line here. That allows Timothy Reed to make the move, and that allowed Peralta to hold on to that position.
Nicely done. So back onto the more flatter portions, flatter I say, as they have lots of elevation up and over into Shevlock. Coming down towards the infield, we're back up to Andy T. 0.6 of a second over Topi Kortsanimi here on lap 2. So Topi hasn't fallen off completely, but it does look comfortable for Andy at this stage.
Yeah, it's looking careful as it is. His Gabri Martinez trying to get a good start, and I think now the tyres have warmed up here. We've not talked about the forecast here today, Joe. 19 Celsius, that's 67 Fahrenheit, so already tough to warm these tyres up. And remember, it's a quick run down into Tarzan. Unless you were at the back of the field, you were basically on the banking here to start if you were 35th or 36th. So they didn't have much of a time to heat those tyres up going into turn 1. Had to really hope that it gets all warmed up, and Gabri with just a couple mistakes on those cold tyres, but now got them warmed up. Namella is in front, and this is a little bit of an unknown. Namella is not a driver you see at the front of the field so much, so what has he got? What can he do to stop the flying Spaniard right now in Gabri Martinez?
Yeah, that fourth place qualifying definitely caught me by surprise as Freckleton gets at least one of his positions back. Or no, actually, he's still in 26, so he has not overtaken anybody. He's battling with Ballant. Sounds like we got a replay of lap 1 here. Let's take a look, and this is what happened to Freckleton.
It's just too hot into the corner, trying to take the inside, and they already was free wide, and then gets collected as well, so maybe, I think there was maybe damage there. Might have just been on that side pod, and hard to really see from that angle, but if he's not making the moves here, and this is a tough track to overtake to begin with here, Joe, but with damage, it's going to be even tougher for Dylan today. Not where he wants to be. It's been a while since we've seen someone down 16 places and still battling out there as he's trying to hold off Taylor Ballant.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some damage. I didn't realize that he had that big of a thwack into the side of his car and could be struggling a little bit. I don't see much in the way of wing damage. So as we look a little bit farther back at Tennyson, and he's not able to quite make the move coming down into turn 1. Oh, and to confirm the damage on Freckleton, he has just headed into pit lane.
It's not what you want to see out there. Let's look at another replay. Peter Kowinski is looking to just avoid what's happened here, and there was the slide. Tires still not warmed up there, and in all due fairness, that's just the momentum of the car there hitting that driver. That was Peter Yerka, I believe he hit there, or Jason Kuproviak, one or the other, he hit there. It was just a case of the car just wants to go a little bit. You can slam on the brakes, no ABS, no traction control. Even if you slam, you're going to be sliding a little bit there. So a little bit unfortunate there to cause a mini big one there. Only a few drivers caught out. Still battled, and give a shout out already at this stage of the race to our director, Christian. There's a lot going on this track.
Leon Hardy up into the top 10. That's Nick Thyssen just in front of him. A longtime regular of the series, Karthik Pai, and the yellow machine just behind. We're going to hop on board with the Williams liveried Leonardi as he chases on this and down the main straight. The banking should help you stay a little bit closer. And while he is gaining bit by bit, it's just not a very long front straightaway, and he's not quite there by the time they send it into Tarzan.
With the downforce these cars have, to say it's not a long straight is true, but it's also a little bit false because they're so flat and high speed through turn 14, Ari Lyondike, as we like to say. It's almost like that's just elongated. Turn 14, it's almost like those last corners at Interlagos. It's a corner, but it's a straight. You really have to get Kumho right up 13 to really set yourself up, and if you don't, you're a little bit out of the loop there, and you're going to have to be a little bit careful because you don't have DRS in these cars. You don't even have any hybrid to really use on the boost. You have to rely on that slipstream and the overspeed there, and some drivers, because of how tight and technical the track is, they don't want to get rid of some of the wing here. They really want to keep it just nailed down to the ground. And I'll tell you what I have seen nailed is that Andy T starting to almost break the toe of Courtenemi, as we see Moose trying to look for Julius Muller.
Yeah, we have to remember this was also right on the verge of the beginnings of the turbo era as well. So they didn't even have turbo boost in these cars to try and turn up Peralta, though. Going to go wheel to wheel coming around Hans Ernst. And it looks like he is going to wind up ahead there in the number 19. Montuano has to slot in behind Cotasalo, the Finn, watching from 22nd position as Leonardi once again wheel to wheel coming through the first corner as it switches back now into Gerlach and Hugenholtz. It is going to be Thyssen who keeps him at bay. Zach has been trying, but just can't seem to make something stick.
No, it's one of those things that if you have to try and make the move, you need to attack down into the inside of Tarzan. And Daniel Banker now looking to see what can he do around here. The American just hoping he can hold this off. Julius Muller has gone down the field a little bit, and he's going to try. That's very ambitious around the outside there. Faroux into 9. Can't make it stick. And Timothy Reed, going to try his best, but can't get it done. This is the widest part of the track, Joe. I know that sounds crazy through the corners, but even then, it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, Timothy Reed maybe finding himself losing some grip as we got a replay once again. This time it's Julius Mueller coming down into turn 1 and just goes a little deep off into the grass, and from there, without the grip, it just sucks you off the corner.
Yeah, and you don't want that as well because you'll cool the tyres down. You've got to get them going again, and he went there to the inside of Hugenholtz, and the inside line doesn't really work at Hugenholtz. I know it sounds crazy being it's cambered, but high line is the best line. And now he's just going to have to hold off and hope that Timothy and Mickey don't go for him and just fight on their own up there. But nothing at the moment. It's very calm out there, I must say. Now everyone has got things sorted out. But anything can still happen, especially when you look at Toga Hisada here. It's almost 2 a.m. in Japan right now. Still trying to find a way to catch up to Gabri before he even looks at attacking. Dirty air really affecting the top drivers today.
Even though they do have ground effects in this car, you do experience quite a bit of the wake, and it can be tough, especially at a track like this. Martinez, though, on the edge of control coming off of the infield section under braking. Togo gets oh so close, but still nothing doing. And Martinez, despite the mistakes, is not vulnerable enough. In fact, this is well too far away coming onto the final corner for him to do anything down into turn 1.
I was quite interested at Togo being really aggressive and braking late there at number 11 at the start of Hans Ertz. It almost felt like he went too hot, and if he was doing that without a car in front of him, would he have actually lost some time? And I think that just sums it up. I think he's just cooked the tyres a little bit, just struggling there, hitting Tarzan. Luke Tenusen trying to make a move on Jack Davis Pickett. I'll tell you what, trying to make a move on a former Lotus 79 champion. Luke's going to do it. F2 championship leader gets this done. Well, that's a great move. Where has Luke come from? Less than 3K iRating, and in the last 3 weeks, he's just found a gear, and that is no easy feat to overtake Jack David Pickett around the outside of any corner, and that's a 5.9K driver.
Yeah, number 34 out of 36 drivers, and that is by I-rating order that is sorted. So, yeah, Luke is, I mean, I don't think he's going to have that sub 3,000 I-rating for very long if he keeps racing like this, especially in this group. Leading now a train of drivers, including Spickett, Andrew Petty in there, Aaron Blair as well, and Julius Mueller all following behind, try and decide that 12th position. We're going to jump back once again. This is Alec Cunningham now, and he's also in a bit of a train forming. I think that's going to be a theme today. If somebody has managed to get position, getting it back from them, even if they're slower, is going to prove difficult.
You look at the top 5 and there's nothing happening. This is the first battle in the top 10, which is Togo Hisada. Everybody else is kind of checked out here as they're trying to find some time. Jack David Spickett taken into the pit. Yes, whoa. I know Tanusen made that overtake, but I did see a little bit of damage, and I think that sums it up. He's retired. There was damage to the side of the car. I don't know if the side skirt was destroyed, but that's the key thing for your ground effect downforce is keeping those skirts clean. And if it was bent in, a little bit it gets up, lose the grip, lose the speed. But Togo doesn't have to worry about that. Neither does Gabri.
I wonder if this was a bit of a rage quit here, because, yeah, I'm not sure that he was intentionally trying to get repairs the way he came in so hot through there. But whatever the case, it wound up meaning that he called it a day regardless. So, like you said, got to keep those skirts clean. Don't want your petticoat to be showing. And right now, Leonardi has kept it relatively clean, but he's up against Nick Thyssen, who has proven hard to get by. This is for 9th spot. Gernot Friesche not too far up the road from them.
And again, this is Zach Lenardi, a number 13 driver, trying to fight the number 7 driver, and the difference between them is 1,500 I rating, and this is still a little bit of a test to see what you do. Thyssen, such a veteran in all the vintage cars when you think about it, now having to be forced on the outside of Tarzan, that might be a good thing, and it is, because Zach does not get the throttle down in time, had to slow down a bit too much. Nick, with the defense around the outside, kind of didn't have a choice. He was forced to the outside, holds it. Zach has been looking for so long for this overtake, and he's just unable to get it, and that's so unfortunate there for him, because it is a little bit of a tough track around here to make the moves. And we go back to that again, Joe. You look at the timing tower. Top 5 are basically separated by over a second. That just goes to show that all the battles are here in the midfield.
Yeah, it does seem like Zach is very quick, and that's a bit wide from Nick, but you can get away with that at this portion, because as you can see, it immediately leans right back into the left-hand hairpin, so he was covered off. This is where he might be a bit more vulnerable, but I think Zach's going to need to be closer than this to send one up the inside of the Hans Ernst chicane, and indeed, he's not even going to try anything through there. What about coming off the final turn? This is looking good now. He is still right up that gearbox, and if he can hold there, he does. Loses a little bit of time slipping up as we start to see the 7 pull a couple feet forward, but it'll get reeled back in down the main straight towards Tarzan, and though he looks, yeah, again, it is just not enough. That shows you the frustration that can form at this track if you're faster than the car ahead.
He needed to be close onto the gearbox there of Thyssen, and he did it best, but just as he got on the exit curve of Kumho there, he just dipped the tyre in the gravel, and just that small amount of gravel pickup just killed all the speed. Had he had that clean run, that would have been a move straight on there for the American, but it's unfortunate, and he has to do it again. And that's basically the main place to make an overtake at this stage of the race. They're not halfway yet, so you get to the final, 8 laps, you'll start to see the desperation down at these corners. Maybe a desperation sent down into Hans Ernst, but right now he knows that this is the name of the game. Use Nick. Get up to Gernot Friesche. See if you can just make another move here, because in all due fairness, Nick's not being a cork in the champagne bottle right now for Zach. Zach is having to work for this, and it's a hard day at the office for Zach.
Checking back in with Banker, Reed, and Friesen. This is for 16th position. They've been close together since much earlier on, but they've lost touch with Julius Mueller, who used to be a part of this group and seems to have much better pace, because he's up the road by about 2.5 seconds. Togo Hisada has been working on this for quite some time. Martinez hangs tough around the outside of Tarzan. Hard to do the outside of Gerlach, but he does it. How did Gabri Martinez keep him from getting by?
I would like to know the same answer there, because that's a move that you can go side by side through Gerlach, and that would have set up the outside moves there for Hugenholtz for Hisada. But something just said no. There was no reason to do that right there. So I'm not entirely sure what Togo was thinking. Might just be a case of let's not lose more time, but they're already 2 seconds behind Numella, and you've got to feel that Togo feels I should be up there right now. A top 5 should be mine. But even the best of the best are struggling to make moves out here today.
Continuing on, getting close to the halfway point of this race, though, we should point out Martinez doing everything he needs to do to keep Hisada back in that 7th position. Again, it seems like qualifying was perhaps one of the most important parts of today. Oh, did something happen to Daniel Banker coming down into turn 1? They are going to go side by side, and hopefully they can get out of this one clean, and thankfully they do. So Daniel Banker with a nice move into 16th.
Now, last season, the Lotus 49s came to this track. It might be the season prior. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some of these drivers were in that race because a lot of the open-wheel drivers in the vintage basically raced the same series as Timothy Reed continues on. It was a lot more aggressive race out here, with drivers really looking for the moves like this. Side by side, they'll go through the exit of Tarzan, but they were able to then hold side by side here. And today, the 79s, they've got more grip. They're a little bit wider, a little bit faster, same engine, but they're unable to do it as Daniel, again, around the outside, makes the defense. And this is really surprising right now to see the likes of that, because I was expecting more overtakes there. I know it's a tough track, we've been on about it, but it's just not been happening today for some of these drivers. And Timothy hits a sausage curb, and that's a little bit of a mini save there. He would have gone sliding around had he not caught that.
I think he's pushing pretty hard. He knows that he needs to get on top of Daniel Banker and make an aggressive move, but it cost him, if anything, as he went over the line. And now Mickey Friesen is encroaching on the back of that red number 11. Togo going for it again, and once again he is going to try and do it in an unusual way, round the outside. Will that give him the advantage that he needs? Because this is where Martinez was last time. They almost make contact out of the corner, and again they bang wheels coming into it. And yes, he took a lesson from Martinez, did it round the outside of Gerlach.
Yeah, he did it. And he was battling hard like the Zenkai Racing event earlier today at Suzuka. And now Martinez wants to keep fighting this. He's going to look for whatever line he can, but Hisada defends. And again, Togo has actually won around this track in the 49. He knows how to open wheel around this track. He finally got free, and now he has to use his infield section, which I feel is a little bit of a strength for Togo because it's mid-speed corners. This should be his forte right now, and he needs to find a way to defend and pull ahead of Gabri Martinez if he wants to start looking forward at Martin Numella.
Interesting that he made this pass, and Gabri has just been all over him since. Not sure what the difference is, but it is proven to be tough trying to shake that number 10. What's going to happen down the main straight? Is maybe Martinez a little bit lower in downforce? Oh, if he is, he's going to need it here because he finally fell back right when he needed to be on top of the Japanese driver. And already Togo is weaving back and forth to try and break that slipstream. That worked out. Togo is finally free.
Yeah, and I was looking at the speed differences. They were matching as they were coming on by. Togo not comfortable through Tarzan, I've noticed, the last few laps. Just almost parks the car a little bit on the apex, not on purpose, but more of a just unable to get the car turned in. Surprised at that for Togo. I thought that would be a corner he'd be comfortable with, but you can see how that has just brought Gabri back into this. But again, Gabri kicking up, like we saw earlier, kicking up some gravel on the exit there of Kumho means he could not get the run he wanted, lost some of the speed, and then it was just a case of matching the speed. So if he gets it right, I'm really curious to see the speed differences, because if they were matching that quickly down the straight, I'm going to say Gabri may have a few kilometers an hour to play with when they come off Ari Lando.
It certainly has that feeling. We're on board with him now as we watch also the battle for ninth. Nick Thyssen, well, they've caught Freesia. Look at that. They're right with him. And you're right. Nick has not been plugging up Zach, at least not significantly, because they are both running down that car ahead as they come onto the main straight. Now, what is Zach going to do now that he is right with him? We've seen him almost this close before, and it seems like he doesn't have enough. He's going to force all of them to weave down the main straight. There is the Serpentine, and unfortunately for our viewers, no pass attempted this time.
Now, I know the final corner is named after an Indy 500 champion or a famous IndyCar driver, but we don't need to see the Indy Serpentine on the start-finish straight, and we've just seen it. I also saw Hisada try to do it despite he had a decent gap to Martinez as well. But it's just really interesting that we're at that stage of the race, and we're, 13 laps to go, and we're looking at people having to break a toe, and I'm really surprised that this is the closest battle at the front of the field when you look at it as well, with other groups near the back of the field, but still, Thyssen can't shake Zach, and Freesia is now caught up. They were able to find a few tenths the last time they bore by, and all of a sudden, Gernot, it's just not a race for the veteran. It's really looking on his home track as well. I mean, we got to point that out here. When you're a Dutch driver, a Dutch sim racer, this is the track you have to learn to make sure that you keep your nationality.
Exactly. And also, as an Indy historian, I just want to point out that, to be fair, the Dragon is a recent development. It hasn't been around all that long. But in the meantime, this time we do not see much of it from Gernot Freesia. He's not weaving back and forth to try to keep Thyssen and Leonardi away from him. So he felt much safer that time by. Still, they have been stuck, and they are now down to 12 to go. We're past the halfway point in today's race. Will we start to see a few more desperate moves amongst them? Or are they maybe starting to feel that pressure to try and move forward?
Well, if we look at these drivers, and I tell you what, here comes that desperation move I was talking about was going to come at the second half of the races. Thyssen tried to look inside at Shivlak there at 7, but nothing there as he comes to Masters, and now 9 can't get anything done. I've been looking, and the drivers are fighting hard out here today, Joe. But you know how I was saying, I was just looking at Togo as well. Here's Tanusin. I hope he doesn't have a spin there. He's taken too much. Oh, he holds it though. Wow. He holds it. I was going to say, I think some drivers have started to overheat the tires a bit because Hisada can't find the time. Thyssen can't find the time now on Freesia. Freesia's been struggling, but that is just a sign of Tanusin's doing it, that they're struggled. And here comes Mickey Friesen looking for a move on into the Hansert chicane and trying to get it done on Timothy Reed. Desperation time has started, Joe.
And this allows Daniel Banker to start to run away from them. That is great news if you're Daniel, but bad if you're Timothy Reed. He has gone from attack to defense, and I think Peralta, yes indeed, he is starting to close up behind them as well. As he tries to break away from Mickey Friesen. Will Mickey try something at a Tarzan? No, he's going to stick behind him, at least for the time being. I mean, there's a lot of slow corners around here, but many of them are banked, so you might be right that we're seeing drivers just overuse the rubber underneath them and finding they now lack the grip late in the race.
I know one thing for sure. If we ask Andy T after the race, what did you think about the grip? He'll say there was nothing wrong with it. Everyone was fine. I don't know what you're talking about. But these drivers will be telling you the tires are crying out at this stage of the race. And look at that twitch just there from Thyssen getting on the throttle out of turn 10. That says to me that they really are struggling. And again, we talk about that temperature. 20 Celsius now is the track temperature. It's 68 Fahrenheit. But it feels like that's a non-factor today. It is just a case of drivers really looking for the opportune moment. And again, more drivers going a bit too far in. Hello, Topi. You're 2.5 seconds behind Andy, but you just set the fastest lap. You're denying him a Grand Slam today.
Exactly. 2 bonus points for the fastest lap of the race. And there's 2 more bonus points for the pole, which Andy has already claimed. There is the Finn. And you mentioned it earlier that front of the field has really kind of become equidistant from one another, and that's been consistent throughout the race, about 2.5 seconds between Andy and Topi, between Topi and Ross. And then I guess it goes a little lower between Ross and Audrius, as it's about a second between them. In the meantime, Nick is still dealing with quite a bit of a hassle as Zach continues to just fill his mirrors at each and every corner. But look at how close he is to Freesia once again. I think Nick has got to be careful. If he makes an attack, that will leave him vulnerable.
And he's been looking once again for a move there into Sheeplock at turn 7, and Freesia was ready for it and put his car in a position that said, Nick, you can't make this move here. So he's really looking to try and hold on. That's got the best seat in the whole of the sim race today, because he's got Nick Fisson and Gunnar Freesia, two legends, two veterans here today, and he's trying to find a way past them. But at the same time, he's trying to keep clear, because I just want to look at the timings here. Kartik Pai's 2 seconds behind, and he did match last time, but if they keep fighting, this may at the end of the race turn into a 4-car little scrap here for the final 2 spots in the top 10. So got to be careful as Tanusin again goes a bit too wide. And remember that talk about tire temperatures, Joe? I think Luke is just starting to experience it.
Yeah, car looked a lot stronger at the start of the race, unfortunately, but he's still doing a good job considering that I rating. So just not maybe how he was hoping the end of this one would go. See if he can clean it up towards the end. Zach falling a little farther behind this time around since we joined them at this spot about a lap ago. In the meantime, that allows Nick Thyssen to look forward a little bit more now that he's not experiencing that pressure from behind. I don't think he got the run that he needed coming down to Hans Ernst, and so we'll have to wait a little bit longer for a move amidst this trio. And again, this is all just to decide 8th place with some 3 very fast drivers in there.
Talking about fast drivers, Ross Banfield now setting the fastest lap of the field. There he is in a livery similar to Zach as we've been looking. And it just goes to show the strength of this top 5, top 6 even, if you put Toga Hisada there as well. He's a former champion as Freesia has to go defense again. And I don't think the over-under works at Tarzan, Nick, because of the cambering there. Very tough, and it's really interesting when you think about the standard of the top of the field here, and these drivers are still fighting. Daniel Banker as well, trying to look around the outside of Timothy Reed. He's going to have to get this sorted before they get into Gerlach at turn 2, otherwise it could be all for naught, and Timothy backed out of it. But I think Daniel went a little bit too wide. He's still low. The over-under works for Timothy, and that is a great recovery drive.
Amazing stuff, and Banker's going to lose both spots as we now get a battle between Zach and Nick. In fact, look at the defense there from Thyssen very quickly across the track to try to cover him off. But man, that was unusual there. Banker, we said, was like about 2 seconds up the road, and suddenly he gets caught and passed by both of them very quickly.
Yeah, and again, I think it's the tires. I think some of these drivers have been pushing a bit too hard. And you've got to remember, they've been in dirty air for most of the race as well. So I do wonder if that's a factor here. You just saw Topi, the timing tower has closed up. Don't worry about it. Andy's just dealing with a little bit of back markers. Here's another Dutchman as well, with Tanusin trying to make some moves again. 14th though, Joe, let's be brutally honest here. Up 2 today, looking to see if he can get back up a few more spots. For the man leading the F2 championship in what could be, I believe, his first run in the top split, this is a fantastic drive regardless.
Absolutely. I think he's having a great run here. There's been some mistakes, like we said, but, you know, he is a lower I rating, so almost can be expected as Aaron Blair has his own little error coming off of Hugenholtz, straddling the curb. That costs him some speed, but with how twisty it is on the run through Slotemacher, there was just no place to put the car for Luke.
Yeah, I just want to go back to how strong Luke has been, because week 7 he won the second split, was good enough for 9th spot. And then you look at how he dominated the second split last week, and we were on a very tough track last week at Suzuka. His average lap time was 1 minute 46.5. That's almost a second faster than the car that came second And to give you an idea of the timings, as we look at Ben Sommer, Luke was 9th fastest overall. P2 in that second split was 20th fastest overall in all the splits. So just goes to show how he's been dominating. And this man is also trying to battle for that championship as well in Ben Summers, trying to see if he can make some moves up into the F2s. And he's struggling, especially if he loses out to Taylor Ballant. And behind him is Thomas Tuber. He's not where he wants to be right now if he wants to get some points.
Yeah, and we got to remember that it was tail end Thomas today as he started from the very back of the field, so up to 29th, gained 7 spots. Ben as well up his own 6 positions since the beginning of this race. Back to Nick Thyssen and Gernot Friesche. Where did Zach go? Well, he's just a little bit farther behind. There he is, just popping in, falling back by about 0.8 of a second. And Karthik Pai getting closer to that Williams.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's anything there. I think he just could not find the pace because Friesche did a 22 flat, Thyssen did a 21.9, and yeah, it was just not there for Zach. It was a 22.6, so must have been a little bit of a mistake there for Zach losing out. And if he starts losing out, he brings Kartik in, and Pai's not been faster, but he's been matching these drivers, so that helps as well. Luke having to defend as well as he makes his move. And look, that's not a defense, sorry. That's an overtake. And he's got past Aaron Blair through Hans Ertz. And that's the first time today we've seen an overtake there, Joe. Did you think it'd be the number 34 car doing it, though?
Not really, but Luke, again, is surprising us. He is feisty, I'll give him that. So up to P13. He's got 3 seconds to catch up to Petty in about 5 laps. I'm not thinking that is likely, but I mean, we've seen some wild stuff today. So a mistake from Andrew Petty could still put him within range. Here comes Nick Thyssen on Gernot Friesche. And while he took a big look, the door was shut.
And now this is the umpteenth time, as we say in England, for him trying to make that move. And again, Gernot puts the car slightly in the middle right, middle inside there a little bit there. And I wonder if I'm Nick, not to make that move, not to look for that move. Maybe it's time for him to set himself up, because there's a really good chance to make a move into Masters at 8 and finish it off at 9. And if you need 10, you can get it because of how wide the track is. So committing so much to Schiflak right now is costing him time. Zach back in the slipstream. It's costing him tire wear. And it's also costing him a chance to make the move. So if I'm Nick right now, and hopefully he's not listening while he's racing, why are you doing that, Nick? I'd be waiting and set yourself up into turn 8, because that move into 7 is not working.
I mean, it's Nick Thyssen. He's probably coding while he's racing right now. So very involved. In fact, he's made some of the software we're using for this very show right now. And has done a lot for the community, but shows that it's not just a great mind with a computer, but also with a car, as he is able to run quite fast in what is a difficult vehicle here in the sim. And he's going to look around the outside this time, given enough space on the way in. But you're right, he lost a ton of time with that move. I know he's got the momentum. He's got a better run through 4, 5, and 6. But I do wonder if it's just better now to just have a little bit of a lift, give yourself that time, and then set yourself up. Because Nick is Gernot is defending. We've got to replay Taylor Bernard there, going around at Kumholz, trying to avoid everybody. He does, but that's such an unfortunate place, and he does get it off the track, but he does come in for a tow. We're free to go. If I'm Nick, just set yourself up here. Let Gernot make the mistake, because Gernot is so focused on defending. Nick is losing time here, and that elastic band is almost breaking. Free to go, like you said, but Andy T is starting to catch a little bit of traffic. It's about 3 seconds between himself and Topi. Granted, usually a lot of drivers are very well behaved in this series, so hopefully it won't affect it too much. Looking like he is, in fact, sipping on his namesake this entire race, unbothered at the front.
It's called calm and collective. Unlike a cup of tea, you won't have tea warm, but he's been anything but cold this season. He's been absolutely hot, and first full season since the new tyres he's come in, and giving a thank you for the driver pulling over to one side to just let him by, because he knows what's at stake. Comes on for, I think it was Andrew Petty who just let him by, or one other driver So that's just crucial. But this battle again, and you see Nick has just pulled himself back into this battle. And again, if anyone's talking to Nick and said, hey, by the way, GSRC said this, don't tell him that. Just let him work it. But again, if I'm a crew chief him for right now, I'm telling him to ignore that turn 7. I know I keep talking about it, but do you want P8 or do you want to keep it P9? That's a strategy you got to play with 2 to go.
Pretty sure he wants P8, but that was a slip up this time. Frisha, I think a little slow coming off of Kumho. This could allow exactly what Nick has been working on all race long. He's got so much more speed. He'll go to the outside, coming down into Tarzan. We've seen that work sometimes, but not every time. Which is it going to be as they are wheel to wheel and drag racing off the corner, squirming on the throttle? Gernot Frisha gets pinched down at Gerlach, and that's job done for Nick with 2 laps to go.
And now Gernot's going to have to watch out for Zach, and he did have a little bit of a wobble, but Zach couldn't get on there, and that's the first time we've seen drivers go side by side at Gerlach all race. They kind of wanted to not make that move, but he decided, nope, it is now the time to do it. And this is the area really crucial to see, can Nick start to pull ahead? I'll tell you one thing I've been looking at. Togo has caught up to the back of Numella. He's only a second behind. I don't think it's going to be enough for him to make the move, but you see it on the timing tower. He is trying to push, but very shortly, Andy's going to take the white flag. I don't think Togo's got the time. Nick's going to have to spend a lap and a quarter defending this right now over Gernot Frisha, and if he goes a bit too slow there into Hans Ernst, I think it's going to be all for naught. He's going to have to behave.
You can see Gernot dipping his tires even into the grass. He is trying to open this track up and get what he can. As we now watch Zach, who's also been stuck here. There is the weaving once again, all the way to the inside, back to the outside, but no, Frisha wasn't close enough coming up to Tarzan. From here, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to try and get by.
What has he got left? That's the important thing. Has he got anything? Different lines through Hugenholtz as much as they can, Jojo. Is as much as he can get going, but it's just not there. And this is where Fisson was fastest out of the 3 of them. Is he going to look for the move? He looked at it again. Well, Gernot's had a lot of practice on that today. I don't think he was going to let that happen.
No, he has confidence coming through Shivlock, that is for sure. He's still looking quite vulnerable as Zach is right there and almost gave him a tap. In fact, the car got loose, but we'll have to get away from that pass or potential pass because Andy T, with this win, will clinch the title in Season 1 for the Sunday Grand Prix Series. Impressive stuff for Andy T. Kortsanemi will come home a second and a half behind, with Ross Banfield a solid podium today.
Toby Kortsanemi says, you shall not have the Grand Slalom, you will not have the Grand Slam. Marco Numella gets that P5. Hisada, he'll say it again, he needed one more lap. Martinez will take home 7th, and Fisson does hold on, and so does Frisha for 9th as well. Zach with a great P10 at the end as well. More battles happening. Timothy Reed looking to see, can he get one last run on Julius Müller? It's going to be all for naught. I think Julius is running out of fuel, but it's a quick run to the line. And yeah, Julius will hold into that. I see at the back though, Montejano has had a moment on the last few corners, and he's going down the line. The Ecuadorian was in 22nd, and he's gone down to 26th.
Right at the end. That is always one of the most frustrating feelings, as Cockrum looks like he'll at least lock down 21st. Impressively, they have 28 drivers that have managed to finish on the lead lap, so only a couple did wind up a lap down. Unfortunately, one of them was Dylan Freckleton, who brought the car back out on track, but will be 2 laps off the lead. So, disappointing day for him, but a day of celebration if you are Andy T, who takes the win and we believe the championship today, as Topi Kortsanemi will take away that fastest lap and still finish second. Ross Banfield on the podium. Valenteus gets himself a solid 4th, up 1 from where he started. Numella falling down that 1 position into P5, and Togo Hisada up 2 to get himself into 6th in the end. Gabri Martinez fought him hard but couldn't hold him back. He finished 7th as Nick Thyssen, a late pass into 8th, did the job for him. Gernot Friesche was 9th and Leonardi was 10th.
Well, as Andy T does some burnouts on the start-finish straight to celebrate, Kartik Pai will be celebrating a P11th here with Andrew Petty up 7 into 12th. And Luke Tenusin, you've got to put the hat up there, 13th today for the F2 leader. Brilliant result for him today. Aaron Blair will be 14th. Julius Muller will fall down into 15th with Timothy Reed in 16th and Mickey Friesen up 17th. Daniel Banker, will be in 18th with Carlos Peralta in 19th. Iker Costasalo, a very quiet 20th there for Iker today.
From there, 21st went to Cochrane with Morera in 22nd. Remy Villeneuve will finish P23. After that, it's Alvarez in 24th, followed by Cunningham in 25th and Montejuano in 26th. Ben Summers, 27th, and Michael Taylor, 28th. Thomas Tuba was the first one a lap down in 29th, with Ballant in 30th. From there, Yank was in the 31st spot. Freckleton, Jurka, Spickett, Konechny, and Krakowiak not having the best of days. I believe we do have our new champion, Andy T, ready to chat with us after that win. Andy, I know you knew coming in that all it needed was a first or a second, but I'll be honest, this one looked like a bit of a walk in the park up at the front today. Well, see if we have Andy with us. Andy, do you have a copy? Might still be celebrating somewhere. There we go. Now we got you.
Okay, we got there in the end. Yeah, apologies if I'm a bit hoarse. I just screamed the house down.
Well, that is fantastic to know that, these championships, these wins still mean something to you. What does it mean coming in season one and getting another one under your belt?
Yeah, I mean, after effectively 2.5 years off, to come back in and win one is fantastic. Given the strength of field we've had, the top few drivers this season, it's other than when I was battling Tamash, it's just been so difficult. Like, every week that someone's going to be within a 10th of you, and like preparing for these races is just a constant mind game, man.
I can only imagine. And Topi kept you from getting it perfect this weekend as he stole that fastest lap right at the end. How much do you pay attention to those in races like this? If you have the gap, do you actually work to try and get those fastest laps from his hands?
I mean, it depends on the context, right? So today, absolutely not, because I just needed to cross the line. That's it. And in another week, yeah, sure, I'd push and get the fastest lap, but all I needed was third, so to have gotten pole and a race win is absolutely fantastic.
Well, being British, are you going to celebrate with your last name, or are you going to get yourself a little bit of bubbly?
I mean, I don't drink, but I've got some Prosecco in the fridge, so we'll pop that open, and I'm going to chill out. I do have a bit of an announcement to make, but you'll have to wait for that. But this is my last broadcast season.
Well, we'll wait to hear why, but regardless, congratulations on the title.
Thank you, and these broadcasts just make it all worth it, so thanks to everyone who donates and you guys for running this, because it's just incredible. Thank you so much, and big shout out to my wife for putting up with this. I owe her weekends.
Thank you very much for the kind words, Andy T. Very gracious today, and obviously in a great mood. But in the meantime, I'm curious what the mood is for second place Topi Korteniemi, who Craig has caught up with.
Well, Topi, first of all, a little slap on the wrist because you denied a Grand Slam for Andy today with the fastest lap of the race, but it felt like if you got pole position, roles could have been reversed today. It was a very close qualifying between you two.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't expecting much for this race, but I'm surprised to be that close because I know that high downforce tracks aren't my strength, really. But yeah, I was trying for the fastest lap, so that's not a slap on the wrist. I think that's a compliment.
Well, we won't call you Valtteri Bottas at the moment, but no, it's actually, especially when you look at the time, for those who are not aware, that fastest lap was a 1:29.24, which is a very important time out there. Topi, we were talking in the booth today about tire wear, And we didn't see a lot at the front because you guys were well ahead, but it looked like some of the field was struggling with the tires today. Was that something you felt? Because with all the bankings out here today, those tires were really screaming.
Yeah, I haven't done a full stint until today, and I really had to go soft on the rear up and then stiffen the front. I've never ever had to do that with this new tire before, but my car got so loose. I almost lost it in the some of the fast right-handers also. So, yeah, I was struggling with rear grip at the end of the stint. Yeah.
Now, we know your pedigree. We know what you've done. You're a former champion. Andy was talking about the level here this season had been in the Lotus 79s, and I've called it the new golden era. Does having the driver like Andy in front of you, because I know Pauli's not here this season, does having the driver like Andy really push you, or is it just another day in the office for you in the series?
Yeah, I think I've pushed myself this season now that Andy's been racing more regular. And it's getting hard. I don't know where to get the 2/10, 5/10 against Henkel, maybe just practice. Maybe 10 years younger, who knows?
Sophie, I turned 37 this week. I can tell you, 10 years younger, definitely. I will say that for sure. But I'm sure right now you're going to be spending some time in the sauna. It almost sounds like you're already in the sauna right now. We'll let you go and enjoy a standard finish Sunday afternoon, Topi. But all the best. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Greg.
Topi Kortenemi there, who looks like he's getting ready for another sauna there, Joe, as the weekend ends for him.
Well, maybe it'll be a burger and some fries for American Ross Banfield, who finishes third here today. Ross, it didn't look like there was much you could do between Andy and Topi having so much pace in front. So what did you focus on in this race? Did you feel like there was a realistic chance you could get up to them?
At the start, kinda, but then once Andy pulled away, the only time I gain on him is like a 10th at a time. There's no way to gain back 3 seconds. So I was more focused on just seeing if Topi would make a mistake and I could capitalize on that.
This is a notoriously difficult track, especially known for passing being hard, but it is nothing compared to next week where we go to the Nordschleife. Is that one you consider a track you enjoy, or are you one of those that want to see that over with?
I enjoy it. The racing part can be pretty tricky, as you know, just because there's not really many passing opportunities there. So you kind of got to set up like one pass or two passes a lap. But yeah, I look forward to it. It's a really fun like kart track combo.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out there. You're up against some really steep competition. Best of luck when we see you again.
Thanks.
Ross Banfield finishing P3 here today, and that's going to wrap us up. We want to also do like Andy did and thank the community, because man, we can't say how much we enjoy getting to cover this series. It's been a blast, and hopefully we'll get to do it for a long time. But a big thank you to the team that helps make it happen: Greg, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, the Nürburgring Nordschleife. That will be Sunday, February 22nd at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. We do have some more open wheelers later this week. Skip Barber will be going to Snetterton, but we've got some more racing coming up other than that, so make sure to check out all of our broadcasts that are listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.